It's a Thanksgiving feast, a dinner of sorts, you could say, when USC and Seton Hall take each other on Thursday, on Thanksgiving. I got Connor Hope from Heat Check here with me. My name is GregWaddell, Sleepers Game Previews. Go click subscribe if you want to see all of our previews this season. It's going to be an interesting one here because I feel like both of these teams are kind of out of the national narrative right now. USC had a lot of hype coming into the season, and then they lost to UC Irvine, and then they kind of just coasted against Brown. And it seems like nobody wants to talk the Trojans, at least not the way they did a month and a half ago. And until we had a little handshake line kerfuffle going on with Shaheen Holloway, nobody was talking about Seton Hall. So let's just throw it broadly over to you here first. Are you excited for this game in any way? Is this going to be on at your family Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I mean, my wife's a USC grad. My father-in-law got his PhD from USC. My brother-in-law went to USC. So it is a USC family with my in-laws this Thanksgiving. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how, now that Boogie Ellis and Kobe Johnson are one more game post-injury return. They both missed that third game that they lost to UC Irvine. How they can coalesce as a backcourt, and how Isaiah Collier can handle the defensive looks that Shaheen Holloway is going to throw at him. Because this might be a little bit spicy, but I don't know if Isaiah Collier is the answer or should be the primary point guard for USC, at least this point in the season.
Whoa.
Even if you take away his 1 assist and 7 turnover game against UC Irvine, I believe he's like 14 assists to like 15 turnover, 13 turnovers, something like that. Like, not a great assist to turnover ratio. The game against Brown, he was 3-4. First game of the season, 5-5. And his really, the big game came against a defense that didn't really challenge USC in Cal State Bakersfield. And even that one was just 5 assists to 4 turnovers. So he has not been good as a point guard. He's been good scoring the ball. He has been fantastic. But I think you need to sprinkle in a little bit more Boogie Ellis. Boogie Ellis, obviously the experienced player in this backcourt, because Isaiah Collier without Boogie Ellis and Kobe Johnson looked lost.
Yeah.
Against UC Irvine.
Yeah. So Collier was one of my favorite players to sort of follow or study before the season. Like, when we were making a list of what we were excited for, I fell in love with this game when Michigan was after him hard on the recruiting trail. For a while, it felt like he was a Michigan lean. Ultimately, he chooses USC, and he chooses a program that has Boogie Ellis. Like, that was just fascinating to me how it was going to work, because I thought there was a very wide spectrum of outcomes here. The one thing I felt supremely confident in, and I still feel supremely confident in, is that Isaiah Collier is an incredible talent. And individually, I think he's going to be wildly productive. Whether that's a good or a bad thing for USC basketball, I don't know. The stats sort of back that up. Like, to your point, 5.3 turnovers per game through 4 games is horrendous. He's averaging 3.8 assists. That can't happen to be a point guard on a good team. And I feel like it's one of those tropes everybody always says out there, like, oh, he's a game manager type. What he does doesn't show up in the box score. Isaiah Collier is the opposite of that right now. Everything he does shows up in the box score, good and bad. And then the nuance to the conversation is, like, he doesn't have to be the one that's so usage heavy here, because you have another guy right next to him who's scoring 21 points a game on 48% from the floor, averaging more assists per game than Isaiah Collier is right now, averaging half the amount of turnovers that Isaiah Collier is right now. So I think you're more familiar with Boogie Ellis than I am. I have been a fan from afar, know he can score the ball. When they were playing Michigan State in the tournament last year, it's like, okay, top of the scouting report guy. He's a March guy who could go for 40 and beat you. Does he actually have the substance to his game to be the point guard on a winning team to the point that you should shift Collier off the ball?
I see. That's where I don't know, because I feel like the reason why you are so high on Collier is because you're able to play Boogie Ellis off the ball.
Yeah.
And you're able to play them together. I think the same thing with Max Abmas at Texas, right? You're able to play Abmas off the ball now because he transferred to Texas, and he can still take the ball at the end of the game. We saw that earlier this week. I think why I want Boogie Ellis to have the ball more, at least right now, is because he has gone up against grown men in college basketball for 4 years. So he is used to the game. He's used to being keyed on as a point guard at times. And you can slowly work Collier back in. But we saw it against UC Irvine. When you throw him to the Wolves, he's going to turn the ball over. And you know, that's with almost every freshman point guard. The really good ones, the teams that have really good freshman point guards that end up winning national champions, always have an experienced secondary ball handler on that roster, if not the primary ball handler being the experienced guard, and then the freshman point guard kind of playing more in towards the back half of the season. So I think that's probably the way you approach it. Collier, though, could play off the ball. He's even keyed on. He's over 40% from three, over 80% from the line, shooting over 55% inside the 3-point line. So like, he's efficient scoring the ball, and you can't really downgrade that. And he does that as the primary ball handler. So I would like to see it maybe become more of a 60-40, 50-50 with Isaiah Collier potentially still being the lead point guard in those situations. But we've seen in 2 straight games and 3 out of 4 that he has some turnover issues that need to be worked through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating challenge for opposing defenses, because just point blank, most teams don't have the defensive personnel to be able to take away both Boogie and Isaiah. So if you have like one elite perimeter defender, it's almost like you have to pick and choose who's more important to try and take away. And I don't know who I would say as a coach. Like, I don't know who I would say. I think probably Boogie Ellis right now, because if you put a lesser defender on Isaiah and try to force him more into hunting his own shots, I don't know, maybe making decisions on the fly. Like, obviously there's the turnover downside with him that it doesn't feel like there is with Boogie right now. So that's probably what I would do. But the interesting thing with this matchup is Seton Hall has a bunch of dudes they can throw at good guards. They have a bunch of different ways they can throw those guys at good guards. And the number to watch for me coming into this one, USC turns the ball over 20% of the time. That's 275th in the country in turnover percentage. Seton Hall's defense, very good at forcing turnovers, not elite level right now, but they force teams to turn the ball over 20% of the time, which is 67th in the country. So if that's how, or if Seton Hall is going to hang this game, that's the formula, right? Like, is there a number they need to hit turnover wise to feel good if they force USC into X amount of turnovers to win this game?
Normally, I would say yes, and it's rough because they've played 3 of the 4 games they've played have been sub top 300 teams.
Yeah,
their offenses looked good against those teams, but you're right. They have 2 players in Kadari Richmond and Dylan Adewusu who are top 60 in steal percentage in the country. Jaquan Sanders is top 200, top 200, and then Malachi Brown, oh by the way, would probably also be top 60 if he played enough minutes. Like, you can throw any of those guards at Isaiah Collier, and it would probably work. So you could use a Kadari Richmond or an Adewusu, whoever you feel more comfortable putting on Boogie Ellis, and the other guard is likely to be able to handle and take away and make life rough for Isaiah Collier. For me, I don't know, because I don't know how good this offense actually is with Seton Hall. Shaheen Holloway's offenses have traditionally not been good. They last year was a struggle to get anything to go for most of the season for the Seton Hall team. But this team has moved away from shooting the 3. They're scoring inside at a 60-61% rate. But again, it's against teams like Fairfield, it's against teams like Albany, it's against teams like Wagner. So, or not Fairfield, Fairleigh Dickinson, Albany, and Wagner. So, I don't know how good this offense can be. So I would say probably 15 turnovers should be the goal for this Seton Hall team. I think that's a pretty good number. And I think if they can turn Collier over 6 times, 7 times, they'd probably feel pretty good about their chances, because these guards can also get out in transition.
Yeah, I think you're right on that number. If they hit 15, I feel like they have a pretty good chance to win this game. Anything less, I think, is dicier. Look, Seton Hall by no means is a bad team, but I do have the competition questions that you mentioned. Like the toughest opponent was Shaheen's old school, St. Peter's. That was an 11-point game. They were huge favorites in that game. It's just been sort of like, I don't know, like hit the snooze button and you're going to get to 4-0, and then all of a sudden you're going to see who you really are against USC. Like, I know USC has had struggles and lost a game they shouldn't have, but to me, at least, there's higher upside with who USC is right now. And it's hard for me to look at this on paper because Kadari Richmond is this team's best player. No offense to Kadari Richmond at all. Like, he's a very good guard. He's playing great this season. Everything is up across the board. He's shooting 57% from the floor this year. Leads him in scoring 14 points. Historically, he's been like a fringe 40% guy. So I think like when the competition level gets higher, I expect his efficiency to drop significantly. And at the end of the day, this is a backcourt of Isaiah Collier and Boogie Ellis against a backcourt of Kadari Richmond. Yeah, I really want to side with the Trojans on this one.
Well, and even in the front court, you've got Jaden Bediako, who's been really good for Seton Hall. Joshua Morgan has been fantastic for USC. Harrison Hornery's been really good for USC. Vincent Iwachukwu is back. He's played 2 games. He's come out a little bit slow, but you're assuming that the talent is there, where it might not happen in this game, but he can eventually raise himself to what we expect coming off that injury. So USC has the advantage probably in the front court, and they definitely, in my mind, have the advantage in the back court, especially when it comes to the depth of the talent they have there, or in front court, the depth of the talent they have up there.
Yeah. So Ken Pom has USC as 3-point favorites, expecting a 73-70 ball game. I don't know what the spread is for tomorrow. I haven't looked. Which side would you be on there? I'm leaning USC harshly after this discussion. Where are you?
Yeah, the Ken Pom 3-point, I think, has a lot to do with the turnovers. Because that's the only thing I can look at for these two teams and say that is how Seton Hall beats USC. Is those turnovers. I think that USC has the talent advantage all over the court. They've proven that they're better on offense in short spurts when everyone's healthy. I think the only thing you have to be wary of is this offense for Seton Hall for real? I think it's a bit of a mirage, just from the track record of what we've seen from Shaheen Holloway in any game that wasn't a tournament game with St. Peter's. But who knows? So I'd probably lean USC by 2 to 3 scores at least.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. All right. Hope you enjoyed this preview. That's Connor Hope from Heat Check. My name is GregWaddell from Sleepers Media. Click subscribe so you can see all of our previews and recaps for every big game this college basketball season. We'll see you next time.